Everybody, this is Kevin J. Brown here, or also known as Kev JB. Welcome to another live stream. I apologize for not being able to show up on Monday. I was enjoying time with my family yesterday, and so I wasn't able to make it. And plus, I was feeling a little anxious about wanting to be online, and I don't want to present myself in any way as trying to force things to be, a just to come online and try to perform when I'm not really feeling at my best. Plus, I've been trying to take my time to, like I said, enjoy family. So I didn't come on yesterday, but here I am today. And originally, I had it in mind to do the whole Agenda 2030 conversation about women's rights, and I wanted to speak specifically about how everything with that is all part of whatever type of issue that may be going on for the future, and all that. But we can talk about that another time. I wanted to specifically discuss how things are going with the Democratic Party, and more specifically, the whole discussion with Black men. Now, as you all know, I talked about this conversation last week, about a few days ago, and we were going through the whole conversation with, everything that was leading up to, the democratic condition with Black voters, how Black voters tend to respond to, when it comes to voting for the Democratic candidate, and how it kind of led to, especially doing it blindly without really a clear incentive about why they wanted to vote for a particular person, despite the fact that they may, cross certain values, or there may be misinformation that's going around. How this led to us being in a position where Black men, in particular, in this particular conversation, were being chastised for not voting for Kamala Harris without a very clear incentive and reason why. I want to go back and talk about that some more. And this time I'm going to be doing it from a different perspective. We're going to be talking about it from the standpoint of how this particular idea of scolding and not being able to present valid reasons as to why people should vote for Kamala Harris within the Democratic Party, particularly those who more likely vote within the Democratic Party, which is Black people. It's revealing a lot about the party itself. And this is something that's kind of been built upon over the course of time, especially in this election. But we're actually going to go through and look at some of the moments where we've been seeing a whole lot of the scolding happening when discussing some very serious things about this particular party, its policies, the way that it moves, and every single thing. So before we get into it, guys, let's hit the like button. And if you are somebody who is new to this channel, make sure that you hit the subscribe button and click the notification bell so the way you are alerted every single time that there is a new video. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to replay the whole video. The last time I gave my commentary about the whole situation with specifically from the Black men perspective, but we're going to talk about it from the standpoint of how it reveals a whole lot about the Democratic Party itself, and using people who are from within positions within the Democratic Party to make a very clear statement of what is the actual problem, as far as what is really needed to be done to either ensure votes, or even just to make sure that we are considered someone who is worthy to be counted among the party, and trying to make sure that we are, what's the word I want to use? Essentially being heard and being properly represented. That's the best one. Now, we're going to see this with Black men, but there's going to be a certain interview that we're going to talk about this as well. Empress Kia, what's up? How's it going? Good seeing you. All right, so let me move myself out the way, and we're going to do this video once more.
I'm going to go ahead and just speak some truths, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Because my understanding, based on reports I'm getting from campaigns and communities, is that we have not yet seen the same kinds of energy and turnout in all quarters of our neighborhoods and communities as we saw when I was running. Now, I also want to say that seems to be more pronounced with the brothers. So if you don't mind, just for a second, I'm going to speak to y'all directly and say that when you have a choice that is this clear, when on the one hand you have somebody who grew up like you, knows you, went to college with you, understands the struggles and pain and joy that comes from those experiences, who's had to work harder and do more and overcome and achieves the second highest office in the land and is putting forward concrete proposals to directly address the things that are vital in our neighborhoods and our communities, from housing to making sure that our mothers and our fathers and our grandparents can afford, and making sure that we are dealing with prices that are too high and rents that are too high, and are committed to making sure that we maintain the Affordable Care Act, so everybody's got help, and cares about things like education and entrepreneurship in our neighborhoods. And that's on one side. And on the other side, you have someone who has consistently shown disregard, not just for the communities, but for you as a person. And you're thinking about sitting out? I'm not. But, you know, Cousin Pookie might be. And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I'm speaking to her, makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. And I think anybody you are talking to in a barbershop, anybody you are talking to in your house, in your family, at church, who is coming with that kind of attitude, I think you have to ask them, well, how can that be? Because the women in our lives have been getting our backs this entire time. They've been raising us and working and having our backs. And when we get in trouble and the system's not working for us, they're about sitting out or even supporting somebody who has a history of denigrating you because you think that's a sign of strength, because that's what being a man is, putting women down. That's not acceptable. That's not, this shouldn't even be a question.
All right, so you heard all that, right? All right. So I showed this. I showed this the last video that I did. You'll be able. I just managed to do it without talking over this time. So Tiff, how you doing, Tiff? She said, "I'm glad the Democrats are being exposed for the disrespect they really have for Black men and Black people overall. They've been shucking and diving for votes. No respect for us. Nope, not at all. And this is one of those elections where we've been clearly able to see that. They have no concrete proposal for Black America. They say it and they don't do it. Oh, well, we can get to a video shortly that talks about that she wasn't going to do anything specifically for Black people. And then she says, most men have a patriarchal mindset. It's not so, but that's not just simply Black men. Men in general have a patriarchal mindset, right? Like men in general are by and large conservative. Part of being conservative is having a patriarchal mindset. That's not just simply with Black men. And see, this is kind of where the identity politics of just simply going by the way of being Black, it starts losing its what's the word I want to use? The appeal, because what they are trying to demonize as just simply being a specific Black male thing is really just being, some of that is just being a man. Another thing too, a lot of it doesn't have anything to do with misogyny. We'll look at some polls that show how really just over time, the Black men in particular have just been on the decline when it comes to voting within the Democratic Party or being involved with Democrats. I'm not even sure there's even a real increase when it comes to Republican votes, but there's been a steady decrease from the Democrat Party. It just is what it is. But men overall are becoming much more conservative, especially here in the United States, where there's a lot more concern about jobs, the economy, democracy, and all those sorts of things. Those are things that specifically impact men. And she says, yeah, but it's more prevalent now as far as voting factors are concerned. They're visibly they're visibly forthcoming with it. Yeah, some of that is true. But again, I think there's a lot more concern with the actual, what are the policies going to do for specifically, not just, well, it includes Black men, but it includes men in general. Where is this going to be a end result for me? What am I getting out of this? Like, everybody should have that in mind, right? But let's move into something else that I want to share with you all that I thought was really an issue that showed a lot of that really kind of revealed the face of the concerns of the Democratic Party for me. And this was after the debate with Trump and Biden back in July. So here we go. Here. We can start here, I guess. Move back.
Their own party are wondering if President Biden should even step aside. What do you say to that?
Listen, first of all, what we saw tonight is the president making a very clear contrast with Donald Trump on all of the issues that matter to the American people. Yes, there was a slow start, but it was a strong finish. And what became very clear through the course of the night is that Joe Biden is fighting on behalf of the American people, on substance, on policy, on performance. Joe Biden is extraordinarily strong. And
I'm sorry,
that
on
cannot
substance
be
and
debated.
policy and performance tonight, I mean, the president's performance tonight clearly was disappointing for his supporters. CNN is reporting Democratic lawmakers watching the debate were worried about the president's performance. One said it was a disaster. Another called it a train wreck. Those are Democrats especially worried that Biden did not punch back on Trump's lies.
Listen, people can debate on style points, but ultimately this election and who is the president of the United States has to be about substance. And the contrast is clear. Look at what happened during the course of the debate. Donald Trump lied over and over and over again, as he is wont to do. He would not disavow what happened on January 6th. He would not give a clear answer on whether he would stand by the election results this November. He went back and forth about where he stands on one of the most critical issues of freedom in America, which is the right of a woman to make decisions about their own body. He has been completely ambiguous and all over the place about where he stands on that issue, despite the fact that he hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And that's exactly what they did. And just 3 years ago, we commemorated the 2-year anniversary of Dobbs, wherein women across our country have been denied emergency health care.
All that may be true. All that may be true. But the president of the
these
United
facts are
States
very
was not
important.
able to make that case to Donald Trump on the stage tonight. I mean, you debated against then Vice President Vice President Biden 4 years ago, and he was a very different person on the stage 4 years ago when you debated him. You must, I mean, that's certainly true, is it not?
Anderson, the point has to be performance in terms of what a president does. A
Right,
president who
but that is
incites
what's
an
scary for
insurrection
people
against the
watching this.
Capitol. No, but I got the point that you're making about a 1.5 hour debate tonight. I'm talking about 3.5 years of performance in work that has been historic.
But
whether
is that
it be
the man
infrastructure,
who we
the
saw
former
on the
guy, the
stage
other
tonight?
guy,
Is that the
the other
person
guy
you
on
see
the
in
debate
meetings every day?
stage, the person that you saw on the debate stage that has for the last 3.5 years up until today performed in a way that has been about, whether it be in the Oval Office, negotiating bipartisan deals. So we have an infrastructure, a real infrastructure plan where we're putting trillions of dollars on the streets of America to upgrade our infrastructure. Whether it be the person I see in the Oval Office who is meeting with heads of the military and the intelligence community and in the Situation Room, ensuring the safety of America. The person I see in Joe Biden on the world stage, convening world leaders who often ask for his advice. Most recently, just during the G7 conference. So I'm not going to spend all night with you talking about the last 90 minutes when I've been watching the last 3.5 years of performance.
So there you have it. Hey, everybody, for those who are just tuning in, I wanted to share that with you all because, again, there is this constant pushback that comes when either asking for some sense of demands of what's going on. And this happened, keep in mind, this was happening prior to her officially being in the election once Biden had dropped out, right? And it was not too long after that that he ended up dropping out and she became his replacement. There is another one that I want to share with you all. Let's see. And a lot of it has to do with, so this is Brandon Johnson. Let's see. Questioning. By the way, you guys, if you're liking what you're seeing so far, please hit the like button. There is some, what is this right here? I think we could do this one right here. I won't be able to do all of it, I don't believe, but.
It's disrespectful and condescending. With that, we'll take questions.
Mayor, thank you so much. A couple of clarifications. I'm trying not to make this too long, but will they stay? Because you still will be appointing 11 members. It isn't a totally elected school board. So when you all say that there was going to be a transition anyway, there was always going to be those appointed. That meant the 7 current, many thought were staying. So it's not exactly accurate to say everybody was leaving until all this happened last week. To add to that, who vetted these candidates? Are they endorsed by the CTU? Were they asked ahead of time? Was this a deal breaker? Were they asked, would they fire CEO Martinez and agree to the $300 million?
Well, let's start with your first narration. The current members of the board that are now resigning had no intentions on staying. That's why they didn't run to seek office. But
you still appoint 11. It's not a totally elected board. So would they have stayed? I'm just trying to find out.
I know, and I'm answering it. Okay. The 7 members who are resigning never intended to stay. So I just want to make sure that that's absolutely clear. They always knew what their assignment was. And just, again, since we are offering up clarification, last July, 6 board members resigned. 6 of them. And I hope you can draw this very simple conclusion here. This is not the first time the number of resignations that we are seeing are taking place. 6 members resigned. I replaced 6 back in July. And in this instance, 7 members decided to resign, and I accepted their resignation. As far as members who will transition in during this period, there could be scenarios in which some members are able to remain. It really depends on the outcome of the election.
Would you talk further about those other questions that I asked? Are they endorsed by
No,
the
listen, none of these individuals up
How
here.
are they vetted?
None of these individuals up here at this point are, I guess with the exception of one. One person is currently running. As far as who they've been endorsed by, you have to ask those individuals. As far as your other questions of what they were asked to do, they were asked to carry out the vision of public education, the one that I ran on, the one that's in my transition report, the one that's in this transition 5-year plan. They were asked to carry that vision out. Thank you very much.
I thought I had a follow-up.
There were 5 questions there. Which one are you following up to? Question number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If there's time, Mary Ann, we could talk later, but you're welcome.
Okay, thanks, Mayor. Just wanted to clarify, are these candidates endorsed by the CTU?
You have to ask those individuals. I have not endorsed any of these individuals up here in terms of their sort of political aspirations. What's being carried out right now is my authority as mayor of the city of Chicago. If you want to know this, I am fulfilling the executive responsibility that is given to me by the state law. If you want to find out who CTU is endorsing, go ask the CTU. I'm not the CTU. I'm the mayor of the greatest freaking city in the world, the city of Chicago. Do you have a follow-up?
Respectfully.
Do you have a follow-up?
I do have a follow-up. Thank you. We see that one of them appears to be employed by CTU. Are you able to confirm that? No. Debbie Pope? Is that correct?
She doesn't work for the CTU. Thank you very much. Next person.
Mayor, regardless of that, perhaps we can ask and poll the appointees up here if they have been endorsed by the CTU. That might clarify things right here for us.
So Reverend Mitchell, I'm going to help you. Reverend Mitchell Johnson is not running. Mary Gardner is not running. Ms. Blaze is not running. Is Olga running? Olga is not running. Who else did I miss? So no one's running. None of them.
So I want to pause it right here. Do you all see the snarky comments and the snarky attitude that he's presenting just by the simple fact that he is being asked, how are these people vetted? How are these people, the people that have resigned under his watch, the amount of people, how were you able to vet them accordingly? This is the response that he gives. So very nasty. I just want to be able to share that because again, this goes back to scolding and avoidance, along with other issues that reveal the mindset of the Democratic Party. Continue real quick. Now, unfortunately, we won't be able to go through. May not be able to go through the whole thing because this is 45 minutes long, and I do have other things I want to be able to share. But this is one. Let's see. I see Dimple Wimples here. Hey there, good seeing you. All right. Let's keep it going.
Wait, come on, you all. Just settle down. Craig has the mic. So no one on here on the stage right now, none of them are running.
So Mayor, to the outside world, this kind of does look like, because the CTU was your biggest backer, to some it may look like a coup by the CTU to get rid of the board members who would not do your bidding and fire Pedro Martinez. Can you respond to that?
What's the question?
The question is, this looks like a coup by the CTU to get rid of Pedro Martinez. Was there collaboration with the CTU on your part to make this happen so that you could fire Pedro Martinez?
So every single mayor in the history of Chicago has had the authority to appoint board members to multiple boards. Guess who still has that authority? The mayor. This mayor does. Thank you.
Reminder that we're only doing one question, one follow-up. I'm wondering if any of the board members can answer this question. Actually, if all of you can, just maybe even just a show of your hands. How many of you support taking out a
No,
short-term,
we're not doing that. We're not
high-interest
doing
loan
that. We're not
to
doing
pay
that.
for a teacher's
If
contract?
you have a question for the mayor of Chicago, you can ask me a question.
But there-
What you are not going to do is litigate what the board has the authority to do once they're appointed. You can ask that once they are appointed. No, I'm not going to do it. It's disrespectful. Do you have a question for me?
Okay, I'm sorry, you brought them up here and it is.
Do you have a question for me? Ask me the question.
Okay.
Ask me if I support, I'm going to help you out.
Yeah.
Okay. But I just wanted to show this again. Y'all, even if he is doing it for the standpoint of this whole board, how he is addressing these reporters, much like how Kamala Harris was talking to Anderson Cooper, this was very disrespectful. Absolutely. You don't treat people like this. Let's move on. I'm already getting upset. Let's keep going.
Ask me the question if I believe that we should invest in our children and make sure we don't lay off brown and black women. Yes. Yes. I'm not going to tolerate cuts. That's what the issue has been in this city. You know what a better question would be? What are you willing to do with your power to ensure that a school district that stuffed black children in Willis wagons? What you should be asking me is, what are you willing to do when you had a district that have laid off black women? You should be asking me, what am I prepared and willing to do to ensure that our children get the education that they deserve? Anything necessary.
Now, let me just go on ahead and just say this really quickly. I know that for a lot of black people, this is probably going to be something that seemed like a moment of strength and a moment of, black power or whatever. This actually is not a good representation of that in any way, shape, or form. This goes back to, again, I am the mayor. Do not either not question exactly everything that I'm doing, because that's what this is really about. And that, because now he's making a new question to try to combat the issues that he is having, just with following up with the old question of vetting and all this type of stuff. Don't, if you're somebody who is a fan of the mayor, please do not let racial politics make you think that this is a moment of strength. It is not.
I'm going to ask my own questions. Thank you. The next question, I know that you've mentioned several times that you support an elected school board. You fought very hard for it, went
Yes.
down to Springfield. Many are calling what this is right now hypocritical. You could have just let the process play out and let the election happen in November and then allow the 21 members to take office in January.
I use my authority that the people of Chicago gave me, which is to hurry up and make sure that our children get what they deserve. So here's the problem with that. Some of the same individuals who claim to support an elected representative school board only got the gospel once I became mayor of Chicago. These are the same individuals in Springfield that did not fight for adequate funding.
You better listen.
That when massive school closings were taking place, none of them stood up in that moment to say, you know what, maybe the authority of the mayor is too much. Now you actually have a mayor who recognizes democracy, have given the people exactly what they asked for and what they voted for. And now all of a sudden they want to rehash the policies of Bruce Rauner, who called for state control and takeover. So we're not going down that route. We're going to invest in our children. As a parent, as a public school teacher, I'm going to do right by the people of Chicago. The people of Chicago voted for a parent. They got one of their own.
Good morning, Mayor.
Good morning.
Mayor, you said repeatedly that you don't comment on personnel issues, but over the past month, we've seen a majority of city council, we're seeing state lawmakers. We saw Pedro Martinez weigh in publicly about this dispute. Could you explain once and for all why you still don't think it's appropriate to talk about why you're dissatisfied with Pedro Martinez's performance?
Here's what I'm always willing to talk about. Making sure that every single school has a social worker and a counselor and a nurse. Making sure that every single school has a library and a librarian. Making sure that our schools have real college to careers as well as opportunities for the trades, for arts. Imagine a school district that allows for the whole child to develop, where every aspect of their being gets to come to life. That's the picture that I'm painting in this moment, because as a public school teacher, when students show up in the building, they don't ask who the CEO of the Chicago Public Schools is. When children show up hungry and unhoused, they don't ask who the board members are. You know what they ask for? Will you make sure you build affordable homes in the city, which we're doing? Will you invest in restoring an equitable, just system that allows for real creativity to be expressed? And so, as I've said before, you know, people who decide to make it personal about one individual and carry out private conversations publicly, just put it to you this way: I was raised better than that.
What specifically did he do or not do that, runs up against that vision?
This transition that I am shepherding right now is about ensuring that every single child in this city gets exactly what they deserve. I need people to stay focused. Look, I get the politics here. Stay focused for a minute. Do you know what it's like as a parent when your child can play an instrument like the violin?
Come on now.
But can't go to a neighborhood school because that school doesn't offer orchestra? You know what that's like? I know what that's like. That's why my son, we have to travel to the South Side, because he just happens to be good at string instruments. And he plays soccer, and he's in honors AP government. I don't know why anybody recommended him for AP government. I have some suspicion. But we don't have enough schools on the West Side that offer a full range of curriculum. We don't. We don't have enough schools that create a pathway to the trades. Do you know, there is another public educator that I'm working with really closely, and that's Juan Salgado. Do you know we have a 48% increase since I've been in office of people enrolled in community colleges? And you know the number one group, a subgroup of individuals who are enrolling in colleges, community colleges? Black men. It's the highest group, because I've given clear directives. Grab our brothers by the hand.
Yes, sir.
Take them to where they need to go, and support them along the way and until they reach their full potential. That's all this is about. Ensuring that our children receive their full potential. Go ahead. Thank you.
All right, so I'm not going to go through the whole thing of this. We went through 12 minutes. Guys, all that stuff was done from the standpoint of there are questions that I'm not going to answer. And instead of answering, I'm just going to tell what vision I am going to do for the sake of Black people, specifically Black men, as he was saying earlier. But it's all dodging the question. And what's really concerning is, as I said before, about the democratic conditioning of Black people, they are not paying attention to the signs of somebody who is essentially operating as a dictator, who is not wanting to be held accountable for certain questions that he should be answering, something that could affect them on the back end. And we're going to go further into this by the conversation of the Chicago citizens about the whole migrant thing 5 months ago.
South Shore. So I urge you to support the South Shore CBA ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Michael Young Bay.
This $70 million. $70 million. And not counting the past millions of dollars that this city done approved of this state and the county, etc. $70 million. Y'all won't even put $1 million in one neighborhood. $1 million in one neighborhood. Brandon Mayor Johnson, you say that you for the children, etc., you for the youth. You know, you want to have work programs for the youth, etc. Well, $1 million for these work programs for these children. See, I'm not going to address nobody in the room no more. I'm going to just address you whenever this is city council, because I gave you a hard drive of what me and my family has experienced far as the discrimination against these, you know, that comes from places like the Safer Foundation, that come from All Chicago, that come from Bring Chicago Home. You see, that come for these ministers that all have. You know, if you go look on Bring Chicago Home site, you see all them reverends and things like that. They got all these nice churches in these neighborhoods, nice mega churches, and our people homes. And I want to say our people home, because some people, we got to be honest, they do let their stuff go. They do live up in trash, etc. But, and willingly of their own will. But what about the face? All right, what about 79th Street? You see what I'm saying? What about the face? What about 71st Street? What about all these different streets with these empty lots? And then the churches come up and try to buy these lots. That's why I say to the people, come up out of her. Come up out of Rome. That's why I say that, come up out of there. This is no good. It don't matter who they put at the head. He ain't running nothing. We got to be honest about this situation. But I'm still going to talk to you. I'm still going to call you out. I'm still going to say the names. And then I'm coming down here fighting about me and my family housing and being discriminated and retaliated against. And I get attacked by Greg Mitchell. But, you know, and I still been trying to come here, be humble and things like that, and give honors and respect and things like that, but y'all ain't trying to hear that. So now I'm gonna go press these charges and I'm gonna do this lawsuit. I'm not finna play with y'all. I told y'all, and I got proof. I got evidence. I got the video of me having you the hard drive, etc. You know what I'm saying? So I'm Michael Youngbank to the media.
Thank you very much for comments. However, your time has expired. Our next speaker is Kirby Kalin.
Hello, and thanks on expanding public access to mental health care, housing, and public safety. I'd like to start my comment by addressing the Godzilla in the room, and by that, I of course mean affordable housing. The Finance Committee endorsed the proposal for $1.25 billion for affordable housing over the next 5 years. So much of life as a Chicagoan these days is defined by the transient nature of constantly moving every year or two because you can no longer live in the community you want to place roots. And so we need to build affordable housing. Let's borrow money, let's cut some tape and build more affordable housing units across this city with speed and safety. I also want to address the substitute order to change the future of ShotSpotter to a ward-by-ward basis. We cannot do this. We need to cancel the ShotSpotter contract and discontinue its use citywide. An aldermanic discretion of ShotSpotter would lead to a patchwork across the city of profiling, oppression, and aggression. If we are truly to believe that policing can fight crime, we don't need to be expending their resources on something that leads to 85% of the time to incidents where there's no evidence of a gun crime, 90% of the time with no evidence of a crime at all. ShotSpotter wastes our resources and puts those that are most vulnerable at risk of being profiled and damaged by our police. And I also want to spend time speaking on the migrant funding. This is a crisis across our city, but it is not because of the lack of allocation of resources. The migrant crisis is a resource crisis, and we need vast resources to protect our new community members. 70 million, much as you want, but it's true. These are our neighbors. These are now a part of our communities. Immigrants are a basis for our future as a city. Ever since the beginning to now, immigrants.
So I'm going to add to something right here because I could tell that this is probably a liberal who it's probably a liberal. Let me say this real quickly, okay? A lot of people are not seeing these people as immigrants. They are being made as migrants that are seeking asylum as a means of legal immigration, but it's still very much illegal. You guys know that we talked about the CBP1, the whole humanitarian parole. If you don't know anything about that, you can check that out in one of my videos, in one of my live streams. But these are not people that are they're not exactly people who are your immigrants. They're not your new neighbors. These are people who have come here in a more legal, organized way, but they're still very much migrants who have not really had the opportunity to be educated into the American culture. All right. Just want to add that really quickly. Don't mind me. Let's keep this going.
The lifeblood of this city, and we need to support them, not just in the 70 millimeter, but to address the future of this city. We need investments in affordable housing, public access to mental health care, so that these people are protected and ensure that they can live in Chicago in a community that is vibrant, depending not only them, but the connections within the community. $70 million is a great way to start, but it's not enough. It's possible for us to not spend enough on migrant funding. It is not possible for us to spend it's not possible for us to spend too much. We're spending too little. Let's expand the money for migrants. They need our support. They're not going anywhere. We are welcoming.
And by the way, what are the possibilities? What are the possibilities that it's going to affect him? Like part of the reason why you're hearing all the booing and stuff is because these are people who are probably mostly affected by the migrant crisis. The fact that he is actually saying this lets me know that it's probably not even bothering him at all, which is why he's willing to make such accommodations. Flora says they always come here and keep their own culture, right? Because they're not American. They're not somebody who is trained to be in the American culture. These are people who are essentially here because of issues that are going on within their country, and because, right, he said it all about a stutter, right? But these are people who come here without really any way of proving that they are someone who understands how they're going to adapt to the American culture, have a sense of pride of being here. With our immigration status, the way we do immigration, right? We do it in a way where, as somebody said before, and I listened, and I've really taken my time to really see the people who come here, who are here to be educated, who will be in a good contribution to our economy. These are people who are vetted to see how much they are going to be an added value to our way of life. So that means that there's going to be a certain group of people, a certain caliber of people that are going to be able to immigrate here. You have people who are just migrating across just for the standpoint of just want to have a better life, just want to have shelter and security, but without really a true way of vetting how they are going to be able to add to the American way of life, not just simply just our economy, but to the way of life. This is how you start getting people who are liability, not just simply from the standpoint of just money, but also from the way we are seeing ourselves as American citizens. One day I'm going to do a specific topic about that, because there's a video I watched of a Mexican girl who is first or second generation. Her grandparents came here illegally, and she was basically fighting for the United States. She was basically debating someone about how we need to have to make more room for immigrants who come here illegally. And essentially because she didn't want to be seen, they didn't want it to be seen as somebody who are criminal or be stereotyped as somebody who's criminal, when in fact, that is exactly what has happened. But the whole thing with the CBP1 app and the whole humanitarian parole, it makes things a lot more complicated. So yes, he did say that with the South, without a single stutter. Yes. It was like, he was like, more money. Like these types of people, they don't care. And the reason why they don't have to care is because it does not affect them, right? Flora says, my parents came here. They didn't even let us watch TV in their native language. We assumed the American way of living. today I am the only one who speaks Portuguese because I visited frequently. My brother had to give up diplomatic immunity to be citizens. We came here legally. Exactly. So you were able to adapt to the way of life that's here. For these migrants that are coming in without really having a way to truly be vetted, we have no idea who we are letting into this country. We have no idea the type of sentiments that we are letting into this country, particularly by people whose education we haven't really vetted, whose ideas and concepts of life that we haven't really truly vetted. Everything is done by that CBP1 app. Again, you guys need to check out that video if you haven't already. All right, so let's continue.
City, we're going to stay that way. So let's make sure they are protected.
And then he says what's worse is that he says that as if that's supposed to be the American ideal. And this is why I say that with a lot of men who are becoming more and more conservative, this is not appealing to them, and that's including Black men. I wanted to share that with you all because there is a premise for why people do not want to vote for Kamala Harris, who along with Biden has and their erasure of executive orders for the whole idea with the border that Trump has set up. This is why people are very concerned about the future of this country. And somebody like him, I don't think he really truly cares.
Thank you. That's my public comments. Whoa. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your comments. Our next speaker is Richard Poiso.
Before our next speaker, just a second, sir. Before our next speaker, I would respectfully ask yet again that those that are participating in democracy allow our speakers to finish their presentation.
But where is the democracy? Where is the democracy that shows that people don't want this to happen into their cities? People don't want their taxpayer money to go into these migrants living and being able to afford a life here. Where's the democracy in that? You see that the hypocrisy that they make? They use democracy whenever they feel like it, but whenever it suits them.
If you cannot adhere to that expectation, I'm going to ask that our Sergeant at Arms remove you. Give our speakers the respect that they deserve. They're 3 minutes. You may commence, sir.
Good afternoon, Mayor.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everybody here. My name is Richard. Last name's Paso. I'm a store manager at an automotive facility here in Chicago. I'm a native to Chicago. It's near and dear to my heart. The city doesn't feel the same anymore. There's a lot of stuff going on right now that's really hard to process. There's a lot of people here that have watched me on social media. I'm a social media influencer, and I've heard the word getting back to me. Some of the people that work for you have gotten stuff back to me. I'm going to say what I have to say regardless. You can come after me if you want. You can try to slander me if you want. Some of the aldermen can talk behind my back if you want. But there's 31 out of 50 aldermen, December 14th, that turned their back on the public, that said, I will not take their vote on this city continuing to be a sanctuary city. You turned it to yourself to speak for us. You turned it to yourself to speak for the public. We pay you, you work for us. We put you there. How can you stand there and say anything about, we don't want to take their vote? We're going to speak on their behalf, and this is how it's going to be. It shouldn't work that way. Any politician that feels like they deserve that type of control over people, they don't deserve to be politicians. They don't deserve to be in the spot that they're in. Second of all, I'm a veteran. I served 15 months in a war zone for this country where I got hurt. Yes, the VA does take care of me. But every year I'm hearing, let's take away, let's take away, let's take away, let's give back, let's take away, let's give back. But we have immigrants that serve with us, that put their life on the line, that are still fighting for citizenship, that are in the military, that deserve all the respect in the world, and they don't get it. They come back, they're still fighting for citizenship. Some of them don't get it, they get deported. These are are people that put their life on the line for this country, for all of you to have the freedom and the jobs that you have, and they don't get the respect to have somebody care for them and help them through the process. But all of you guys out here will vote for people that are complete aliens to this country, that have nothing. Tren de Agua, Venezuela, anything coming from the Dominican, not Dominican, Honduras. All these people are coming here. They've cleared out these prisons years ago, and they're sending all these people here. They don't want them there. They don't serve them a purpose. They're showing up here in New York, in Chicago, attacking people in the streets. The police are fighting with them in the shelters that you guys are funding. You guys think it's a great idea, but yet your police officers are getting attacked. Your public's getting attacked. You're putting our lives at risk by doing what you're doing, and none of you care about it because the mighty dollar sits on top. And as long as somebody's in your pocket that you're working with, you're okay with doing it. You don't care about the citizens. At some point in time, there's going to be an answering for this. What it is, I don't know. But it doesn't look good. And I don't respect most of the people that are in here because you turned your back on the citizens and you said your voice doesn't matter.
Thank you very much.
And my response to that is job well done. Yes, that is the response that people, citizens, should be talking about. Not the other guy that came in talking about we got to make room for these migrants. No, this is the type of attitude that people need to have. But you see, when it comes to actual stuff that these Democratic leaders, whether they're mayors or governors or people who are even up in federal positions, top federal positions like in the White House, when it's time for them to actually have to be accountable and have to listen to the people and listen to their demands, you see that they aren't really truly caring about what is really going on. And that is the concern that people are looking at every single day, to include Black men and the Black community as a whole. Now, the next person that I want to go to, because I've already spent 10 minutes here, I'm not going to take too long on that. Some of the stuff that I'm seeing now, if you want to watch the full thing, you can go onto YouTube later and you can be able to watch the whole interview. So here's the next person that I want to be able to discuss. Tiffany Henyard. Let's see.
WGN Investigates has an update on dysfunction in Dalton, where local leaders are fighting over transparency, spending, and safety. Now the South Suburbs' controversial mayor is firing back, and it all played out at a public meeting last night.
Y'all forget I am the leader. They want to hear from the mayor. If y'all ain't learned that yet, the mayor only run their mouth. Y'all don't do no work, no work.
Tiffany Henyard considers herself something of a crusader, but one who's clearly annoyed by questions from a rebellious group of Dalton trustees who are in a standoff with her over spending.
At the end of the day, vendors are not being paid. Board approved it. The vendors are not being paid.
How about you be a good leader, bring RFPs to the forefront, so not just us, but the residents and everybody else in America know how the money is being spent.
WGN Investigates has cataloged tens of thousands of taxpayer dollars spent on trips, meals, and more by Tiffany Henyard and her allies in Dalton and on the Thornton Township Board, where she's the supervisor. Township credit card records show Henyard and other officials spent more than $67,000 on trips to Portland, Austin, Atlanta, and New York City. Many of the flights were first class. So were the accommodations. In Atlanta, Henyard and her team stayed at the Four Seasons Hotel, costing taxpayers more than $9,000. In New York, the bill came to $13,000. Henyard has refused to explain the specific purpose of the trips or why they travel in such style, but she appeared to refer to our reporting at Monday's Dalton meeting.
But everything we do for the people. But we under attack. We getting scrutinized in the media. For what? Loving on the people? Showing them that they matter to us? We going through the fires for y'all.
Henyard calls her critics grandstanders who should get in line.
Y'all should be ashamed of yourself. Y'all black. Y'all are black. and y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a Black woman that's in power. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves.
Dalton's difficulties got worse in recent weeks with water main breaks. Henyard blames on trustee budget cuts. Then 4 people were shot and injured last week, leaving nerves frayed and Henyard's opponents pointing out her sizable security detail.
It's unfortunate that politics are being played, but what has happened is $1 million out of my budget has been cut because of politics.
We're not saying the police is not doing a good job. What we're saying is you're assigning all of them to be with you when they should be out here protecting the residents so we can all feel safe.
Residents are taking notice. Some spoke for and others against the mayor.
But, you know, we got the mayor here, I mean, meeting with the president of the United States. Everyone's seen the picture. I mean, that's a big deal. That is great promotion for this city, for this town.
Ladies and gentlemen, be civil. Do things right. Think of the residents. You are here to represent the residents and not yourself.
Henyard and her publicity team no longer respond to our emails seeking an explanation of her spending. As we've reported, she is also the face of a cancer charity that bears her name, one that has failed to file required financial disclosures. The Illinois Attorney General has given the foundation until the middle of this month to show how it spends its money or face legal action. Lourdes?
So let's keep this going.
Battled Mayor Tiffany Henyard. They say they want to answer about Henyard, an unnamed village trustee, and a controversial trip to Las Vegas last May. NBC5's Regina Waldrop in Dalton tonight with the story.
It was a packed village board meeting, but there were still people outside who could not get in. They were banging on doors, windows, chanting, and with that in mind, 4 trustees abruptly walked out. You out of order. In Dalton Monday night, a chaotic village board meeting. It got underway an hour late because of a credible threat, according to police. Only a limited number of residents were let into the building, and they had to pass through a metal detector. Those who were not in protested outside. A short time later, the meeting abruptly ended when 4 trustees walked out.
The Open Meetings Act requires that that we have enough space for everybody to get in. Because of that, I feel we have a lot of outrage going on here.
Anytime you can't come in, it's a problem.
A number of residents outraged because of the alleged misuse of village funds, lawsuits, and other issues called on the mayor to step down.
We don't want you here. You or your administration. Y'all need to go.
Mayor, you might as well step down. You know, this village.
Embattled Dalton Mayor Tiffany Henyard and a village trustee who's not named are at the center of an investigation by the Illinois Department of Human Rights. The probe is focused on what allegedly happened on an economic development trip to Las Vegas last May. Henyard's former assistant who filed this complaint claims she was sexually assaulted by an unnamed Dalton trustee on that trip. She claims she was then later fired from her job. In a statement, the village told NBC5 it conducted a thorough investigation into the allegations led by an independent third-party company. The statement goes on to say this is nothing more than a disgruntled village employee trying to make off with the taxpayers' hard-earned dollars. The village board meeting continued on for a little while with only the mayor and 1 trustee in attendance. April 8th, that's when they hope this meeting will resume. Reporting from Dalton, I'm Regina Waldrop, NBC5 News.
Regina, thank you.
I am a wife. I'm a mother of 3 children. My children and my family are suffering because of this loss. And Dalton police, the detectives, have been sitting around twiddling their fingers on this case. This is hurtful. When I've been in contact, I've been asking questions. I've been in contact with the state's attorney's office. I'm pushing this case. I've had the Crime Stoppers come out to do additional work canvassing the neighborhood, to assist the police, and nothing has been done. My husband, Tavares Edward Davis, deserves justice. Thank you.
All right. One more.
All right. Thank you for your public comment. Next on the agenda is general announcements. Do anybody have any general announcements?
Yes, Mayor.
All right, go ahead.
Okay. I hear a lot of the outrage, and I think a lot of it is just around having a space that can accommodate. And I'm concerned also that there may be some violations of Open Meetings Act because we need to have a space when we know that there's this many people. As such, I'm gonna make a motion that we postpone this meeting and continue the agenda to Monday, April 8th, a week from today at 6:30, Dalton Park District 14700 Evers. So that is my motion.
Trustee, we are not postponing a meeting. We are here. And basically, we have 2 items on the agenda. So we can basically continue with our meeting and get through the 2 items that's on the meeting. So my advice to the board is we are already here. Let's handle the business and not let the business handle you guys. We're not having no meeting at no Dalton Park District. So I'm just making that crystal clear. Clerk, what are you doing? You out of order. You out of order. Did I call the roll? Did I say call the roll? I'm still speaking. You're out of order, Clerk Key. You out of order, Clerk Key. Like, stop. Y'all out of order. Everybody want to run stuff. Y'all don't run this house over here. Stop, please. So, as I was stating, we need to continue with the business. We are here. People came to a meeting to hear we have been doing in our village. The department head, the lawyer, everyone's here. So I'm asking for you guys to sit here and to deal with what's going on. And that's the problem that we have. Wonder why we have this function. This is the reason. So if y'all walk out, y'all walk out. We got business to handle. At 7:58. Okay. All right, so go ahead, handle your business, and we're gonna handle ours.
So you all see again, the same. I hope everybody's still with me. I know I'm having some kind of technical issues, but I hope everybody's still with me. You all see the same behavior of this type of attitude of the one that's in charge, and not really having to be accountable for anything, not to have to really be accountable for like questions or anything of actual concern for the public. Again, it's another Democrat. Continue. Now the people are leaving.
I'll let y'all out. Let you out.
Power to the people. Power to the president. They don't want nothing. Say you want to do something you don't do. If I can't.
The meeting was adjourned because we have to have enough space. So we have to. The Open Meetings Act requires that that we have enough space for everybody to get in. Because of that, I feel we have a lot of outrage going on out there, and we want to be able to provide the space to people that they are looking for.
No, sir. The issue was not about having the space for the people. The issue is that people were insulted by what she just said about being the one that's in charge, that she is the leader. That is what the issue was.
Monday, May 8th. Monday, April 8th, 6:30 p.m., Dalton Park District. Yes. Well, we're trying to listen to the outcries of residents, and I think it's very disappointing. Yes.
Everyone's frustrated at the moment. You're violating the ordinances, you're violating the residents' rights. They deserve, this is their house. This is the residents' home. And anytime you can't come in, it's a problem.
We got the power.
it there. There's one more that I have that's very important. Black people, but this is involving issues regarding I believe this one is involving the whole issue with Palestine. Now, as you all know, the whole issue with the Palestinian war has become a major issue within politics recently. And this is something that people have not been satisfied with Kamala Harris's answers regarding that, which is why, there's people who are not wanting to be, in support of her. And this is especially true when it comes to Arab and Muslim Americans, who are the most affected by, with everything that has been happening with the deaths of so many people in the Gaza Strip. And so that's what we're going to be looking into now. Let's see. And this might get the Gaza protesters. By the way, if you are enjoying this content, make sure you hit the like button. Share with someone who you think needs to be able to see all this stuff that's going on right here. And again, if you're new, make sure you hit the like button and click the subscribe. And make sure that you're able to follow through with everything that's going on. All right, so what we're gonna go to is here.
I'm here because we believe in democracy. Everyone's voice matters, but I am speaking now. I am speaking now. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
All right, so let's go to, I thought it would be more to this. That's what I want to do. Let's do this one right here. This was a little longer.
Donald Trump intends to take our nation backward. Just look at his Project 2025 agenda. Project 2025. I'm here because we believe in democracy. Everyone's voice matters, but I am speaking now. I am speaking now. You know what? If you want Donald Trump to win, then say that. Otherwise, I'm speaking.
And you see, again, there are so many people who look at this and see this as a moment of strength. They think this is something that is really, really good, not recognizing that, again, this is serious. This is speaking to a very serious issue that has been happening since the war between Israel and Palestine. And this is kind of where, again, she's focusing on the campaign. And there's a part of me that I guess really understands. But this could have been a good moment right here to actually discuss the whole issue with that could have been a good time to actually listening or to share something in regards to that. But again, they are ignored. And we're going to go into hear why Donald Trump is with minority voters.
For most of the past few decades, the Democrats have been the party of America's minorities. In the 2000s, the prospect of an increasingly diverse America, combined with the fact that more and more young Americans were going to college, made Democrat analysts very optimistic about their party's dominance in future presidential elections. And books like this one were written promising that Democrats would dominate the electoral map for decades to come. Now, Barack Obama's success in 2008 and 2012, where he fared remarkably well with minorities while holding his own among white voters, including those without a college education, seemed to confirm this hypothesis. But by 2016, everything had changed. Hillary Clinton did worse with basically every demographic than Obama, and Joe Biden's victory in 2020 was driven by an improvement in non-college educated white voters, with 33% voting for Biden compared to 28% voting for Clinton in 2016. These were the voters in Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania who helped Biden defeat Trump in 2020. When Trump actually had the most diverse Republican coalition since George W. Bush in 2004. This trend has apparently continued into 2024. While polling suggests that Harris has recovered some of Biden's losses, Trump is still performing pretty well with minority voters, at least by historical standards. So in this video, we'll take a look at how Democrats to figure out why this might be. Before we start, if you haven't already, please consider subscribing and ringing the bell to stay in the loop and be notified when we release new videos. First, let's take a look at the data. Pew Research polling from September suggests that Harris currently enjoys an 18-point lead with Hispanic voters, with 57% of registered Latino voters saying that they'll vote for Harris and 39% saying that they'll vote for Trump. While this represents a significant improvement from polls done in the days before Biden dropped out, when Biden had just a 5-point lead, it's still down slightly from 2020, when Biden achieved a 21-point lead, winning 59% of the Hispanic vote, and well down from 2016, when Clinton achieved a 38-point lead, winning 66% of the Hispanic vote. Similarly, Pew polling from August found that Harris enjoyed a 64-point lead among black voters, with 77% of registered black voters saying that they'd vote for Harris, and 13% saying they'd vote for Trump. Again, this is an improvement from Biden, who, according to a Siena poll from earlier this year, had his lead cut to just 43 points. But it's still down from 2020, when Biden achieved an 84-point lead, winning 92% of the black vote, and on 2016, when Clinton achieved an 85-point lead. These Republican gains in Hispanic voters have been particularly great for Trump, though, because of how they've affected the electoral map. In short, Trump's gains amongst Hispanic voters have turned Florida, which has 30 electoral votes, from a crucial swing state in 2016 to a solidly red state in 2024. This is particularly apparent if you look at the county of Miami-Dade, which is where the city of Miami is located. In 2016, Clinton won it by 30 points, but in 2020, Joe Biden won it by only 7.5 points. Helped by a strong performance in Florida's northern rural areas, Trump won the state comfortably in 2020 and is due to win it in 2024 by about 3 points, at least according to current polls. That being said, other states, including Arizona and Texas, have shifted towards the Democrats due to their growing Hispanic populations, but this is yet to make a big difference to the Electoral College arithmetic. Anyway, before we get into the reasons, a tiny bit more data. Trump is also performing particularly well with Arab Americans. An Arab American Institute poll from last month found that Trump actually had a 1-point lead, with 42% of Arab Americans saying that they were planning on voting for Trump, compared to a 41% for Harris. This is way down from the 30-point lead that Biden enjoyed in 2020, when about 65% of Arab Americans said that they voted Democrat. Perhaps the only minority group where Harris is outperforming 2020 is Asian Americans. A poll from September found that Harris had a 38-point lead with Asian Americans, with 66% saying that they'd back Harris compared to 28% backing Trump. This is a marked improvement from Biden, who had a 15-point lead before he dropped out, and a 29-point lead in 2020. So why is this? Well, there are actually specific reasons for each of these individual groups. Polling suggests that Gaza is the top issue for Arab Americans. And even if Trump is in many ways more pro-Israel than Harris, Biden's Israel policy means that nearly 80% of Arab Americans now disapprove of the current Democratic administration. When it comes to black voters, Republicans have made especially strong gains with young black voters, who might plausibly be less loyal to the Democrats, given the declining salience of the civil rights struggles of the 1960s. And when it comes to Hispanic voters, polling suggests that the economy is their priority, and this is Harris's weakest area, along with foreign policy. Certain Hispanic groups, especially diasporas from communist countries with struggling economies like Venezuela, are also more likely to be right-wing on economic issues. And the Trump campaign has, with some success, presented the Democrats as socialist or even communist, while criticizing them for being soft on Cuba and Venezuela. However, as well as these group-specific reasons, there are also at least two general reasons to explain this realignment. First, America's non-white voters have actually always held more conservative views than their voting patterns would suggest. You might, because black and Hispanic voters historically vote Democrats, they'd be on the left when it comes to social issues. But that's not actually true. Even a decade or so ago in 2012, non-white voters were far more likely than white voters to vote Democrats, but still identify as conservative, prefer restrictions on abortion, and prefer a smaller state. An analysis by John Byrne Murdoch at the Financial Times has shown that what's happened in the past few years is that ideologically conservative non-white voters who used to vote Democrat have just started voting Republican, as you'd sort of expect. In 2012, for instance, even very conservative black voters voted overwhelmingly for the Democrats, but in 2020, they split evenly for Biden and Trump. Similarly, in 2012, very conservative Hispanics voted for Republicans by a 20-point margin, but by 2020, that had increased to about 50 points. Byrne Murdoch argues that this is in part because minorities have become more likely to socialize outside of their racial group, and this erodes group-wide taboos on Republican voting. The second reason, though, is Obama. In short, it's not that Democrats always did better with minorities, but rather that Obama did. And you can see this by looking at the midterms when Obama himself wasn't on the ballot. In 2010 and 2014, Republicans won about 10% of the black vote and about 35% of the Hispanic vote, similar to Trump's performance in 2016. While Republicans have continued to gain ground since 2016, the point we're making here is that this realignment isn't as sudden as Obama's overperformance can make it seem. Now, how all of this will shake out in the 2024 demographic voting is yet to be seen. And honestly, it's not that easy to predict. That's made yet harder by how unpredictable this election season has been thus far. After all, who would have predicted a last-minute change of candidate, let alone talk of burying bears in Central Park, Brad Summers, or Elon Musk joking about assassination attempts back at the start of the year? But we have been paying attention to all of those things, because they're not just silly, they're actually politically quite important. We've actually been documenting them in WTF USA, our slightly tongue-in-cheek look at the US election. Each week, we dive into the online discourse, explain the politics behind the stories.
Okay, so he's done. All right, now I wanted to really touch on that, particularly when it comes to like the Arab Americans. It has played a significant role in why I believe that things are becoming much more hectic when it comes to the polling and things like that. There's one thing that I wanted to share with you all before we go into our topic about the other half of the conversation, which is regarding Kamala Harris' response to Black men and, you know, the interview that she did with the Shade Room. Before we go into that, I want to go to Sabi Sab's video regarding the issue with Kamala Harris. As I try to find this video, guys, again, here's the like break. Make sure, and again, everybody's enjoying the content. I hope everybody is so far. Two, there is just an overall move particularly when it comes to younger voters, and particularly with those who are like millennial and Gen Z, we are becoming a lot more aware of what's going on, partially because, again, as that man said earlier, we are talking with people outside of our racial bubble. And that's kind of like the issue that has kind of always been there in the past, why we've been so hardcore Democratic before in the past, we've been more focused on just simply communicating with one another. And again, because of the idea that nobody is able to really understand us, the whole racial politics, identity politics, it made it easy to cling to the Democratic Party. Now that we are able to see what's going on, especially after the whole pandemic situation and whatnot, and having especially TikTok playing into other people being able to share their points of view and stuff, as well as like YouTube, but especially TikTok, we've been able to be exposed to a lot more beyond the usual circumstances with politics in the past. So let's see. Was it this one right here? I think this one, I guess we'll be able to go about that eventually. That I saw from this particular. Let's see. And fair use, by the way. So if Sab see this, don't come for me, right? But I wanted to share this with you all because this was something very important.
Me via email. I put it on Google Doc because privacy. I don't want you to see this. But I want you guys to hear this. They gave me permission to share this on the show because this says something. Hi, I watched your show about Harris losing Michigan due to Arab Americans, and you are 100% right. I am Arab American and a hate crime victim in Pennsylvania. My case was actually the first in the Eastern District in Pennsylvania in 2008. I'm also a registered Democrat for many years. So this person is a Democrat. I sent many emails and calls trying to reach the Harris campaign with no response. It is impossible for any official that I elected or someone to respond to me. I called the local DNC and shared my concerns with them and basically was told, we know what we're doing, and hung up. So do you see how they're being treated? I had told them that they are losing the Arab American vote to Jill Stein and some to Trump. And instead of going on Howard Stern or Gen Z YouTube person, she should have gone onto a telecast with our leaders showing support or speak at the DNC. I told them as a hate crime survivor, I fear Donald Trump. They basically told me indirectly to go away. So you see, again, Arab American voter, registered Democrat. Is this Jill Stein's fault? We're going to make that a slogan. We're going to make that a slogan by the end of the night. I'm telling you. Goes on to say here, below is the letter I sent to Harris 3 weeks ago without any response or acknowledgement. Dear VP Harris, I hope you actually get a chance to read my message. I'm Arab American and a hate crime survivor. In fact, my case was the first in the Eastern District and PA to get to court. I also have spoken out over the years on hate crimes, its effect on community forward. Thought I'd put that part out. Sadly, no American politician understands how the Arab American vote is casted. We vote on policy in the United States, obviously, but we also vote on foreign policy affecting our heritage and sisters in Palestine. We feel our blood does not matter. Genocide happens frequently and not only during World War II. I have many Jewish friends who also feel the same way. The genocide must end. We feel that our taxes should not fund it either. I am worried that you will not secure PA, which we have a huge population here of Arab Americans, and Michigan. So you see, it's not just Michigan, it's also Pennsylvania, right? If I may, I will outline some ideas that will help your campaign. First, do not allow AIPAC or other special interest groups dictate you. Be true as I see you have it within yourself. Second, show the voters that you are you. You do not have blood on your hands. Do something for Palestinians now, not when you get elected. Third, while it was wrong to allow an Arab American not speak at the DNC, try to salvage it by going and meeting with leaders on televised meetings. Bring us in. I am trying to get my friends, etc., to vote for you, but the pain of Gaza makes many uncomfortable and uncommitted. Please do something now. Arab American vote is just as important as any other group. And by showing true compassion, not only will you win our vote, but the respect of the country whose people are not for genocide. That was their message to Kamala Harris, registered Democrat, Arab American voter. And then she ended with this: I feel we don't matter to them at all. I feel actually offended by my party when all I am doing is trying to help. I don't know why I am reaching out today except to say I am proud to be an American and Arab, but scared of my future. I love this country and I want to feel my voice and my people's voice actually matter to the people I elected. I only wanted to help my party, but I guess they don't need their constituent support or voice. As like I was told, we know what we are doing. Thank you.
And that's the main thing that I wanted to share. Well, at least from that channel. I wanted to share that because, again, as Black people, with not only our own concern, but watching the concerns of other people, we are seeing the neglect that is being done by the Democratic Party. And for some reason, we're watching them just completely ignore our concerns. And this is not just with Kamala Harris. This is happening across the board when it comes to the Democratic Party. And this is part of the reason why I genuinely believe that they are not winning, or when it comes to the election. Not that I am necessarily a fan of Kamala Harris being in the office anyway, but this is a contributing factor as to why. It's because people are watching that when it comes to beyond just a scripted narrative that she is able to give in these interviews, when it comes to actual hard-pressing concerns, she is not able to meet the demand. And that is what allows for Trump or even Jill Stein to gain momentum in the election. So without further ado, because I did say like how the black men discussion reveals the mindset of the Democratic Party, I want to go into the shade room and have the conversation with the Kamala Harris interview that the Kamala Harris interview that they did. Right.
President Barack Obama, he was campaigning news. He said, "It makes me think you aren't just feeling the idea of having a woman as a president. You're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all corners of our neighborhoods and community as we saw when I was running." So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation and said, why are you, putting Black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not. So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say? I'm Justin Carter on ground here in Greenville, North Carolina, with the Vice President Kamala Harris. She's announcing something big. Not only
Realize.
Yeah, it's been like several months. And January 2024,
Yes.
you invited us for an Air Force 2 trip from LA to Las Vegas.
Remember that?
And it was just with Chef Jeff. We were talking about some policies that you were initiating, and now here we are. How do we get here? You smell good, you look good.
Oh, that's better than smelling bad. Thank you.
I know, you smell great, you look great. Do you
appreciate you. That's
feel
very
great?
kind.
It has been a whirlwind for you.
I feel good. Listen, we have 23 days as of today until the election, and I am in these streets traveling and talking with folks. We're here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
It's It's very exciting. You know what's exciting for me is like the rally we're about to do this afternoon in states around our country. People by the thousands about it, people of every different kind of background coming together. And there's so much about how.
So already starting off at the wrong foot. So this is a interview. Let me get myself back on the screen. This is an interview that is specifically discussing the issue with what she's having with Black men and what she's talking about. And already she's mixing in of all this diversity thing and whatnot, just already off on the wrong foot. The kind of guy that she has interviewing her is already kind of off on the wrong foot. There's going to be some other things I'm going to be mentioning that is a wrong introduction, a very bad introduction. But I'm going to keep moving forward so that way we'll be able to discuss those things.
How I feel about our message and our movement, if you will, that is grounded in certain beliefs, including the fact that the vast majority of us have so much more in common than what separates us. And it's so important to me that over the course of this campaign, we must win. That's our first imperative, no doubt. But that we build up community.
Yeah.
Right? And coalitions. I think that's so important.
One big theme of your campaign has been freedom.
Yes.
Freedom, right?
Yes. Yes.
Freedom, freedom, I can't lose. I'm not going to mess up the words, and I don't want to get sued
it's
by
so good. And there are a
Beyonce's team.
couple of versions that she has,
I
right?
know. Did you call up the queen?
So another problem. Why are we mentioning Beyonce? Why are we mentioning Beyonce as part of the introduction to a very serious topic that she has to address? Why are we singing songs about freedom from a celebrity singer? We'll give, and this continues on along with something else, but let's continue.
Like, how did that work?
Well, she absolutely gave me permission to use the song. I love her, and
have you met her?
I have met her, but not since I've been running just now.
Okay.
But I have met her, and she's just very special.
Yeah. Talk about freedom and what that means to you. Why that song? It's just imperative. It's crucial right now. What's going on in 2024?
I think that there is so much about what is at stake that is, frankly, the need for us to fight for the things that we hold dear, that we have always had to fight for, but must continue to fight for if they're going to be intact. And frankly, just to be very candid with you, I'm seeing across our country a full-on attempt by some to attack these hard-won freedoms and rights, right? The freedom to vote. In Georgia, for example, they passed a law making it illegal to give people food and water for standing in line to vote, which the hypocrisy abounds. Whatever happened to love thy neighbor? You look at.
So we're going to fact check this really quickly, you all. Because what she just said is not accurate. I hope everybody is still with me. Hold on, because my computer can act a little crazy. Hold on a second. Hope everybody's still with me. All right. So I want to show Georgia to give sorry about that, you guys. They actually kicked me off of the thing. I don't know what happened. And I don't even know how long I was talking. But essentially, the idea is there are laws in place where you can only be within 150 feet of the polling booth in order for you to get water. The reason why that was done was because there would be people who would be pressing for votes or telling people who to vote for because of the whole water situation, right? Or because there was food and stuff. And so they would be able to sway votes. This was done to make sure that there was protection for votes against that. I see everybody coming in. Thank you for coming back, everybody. Sorry about that. That happened on my end. For some reason that the camera stopped. But let's go ahead and continue on with the conversation. I just wanted to share that because that wasn't completely true. All right. So let me get myself out of the way and let's continue forward.
The freedom to make decisions, for a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. The free.
So about that, you all, we're going to be talking about this eventually when we talk about Agenda 2030 and the whole idea about this need of the governance of the womb. And because one of the things that the Sustainable Development Goals talk about is women's rights or reducing inequality among the genders, which is specifically focusing on women. Now, she talks about not being able to have, governments wanting to have, autonomy over their own body. But when it comes to the whole Roe v. Wade situation, that still can happen because there's certain terms that are in place within Roe v. Wade that, when it comes to the whole abortion thing, it can exceed those terms as well. And even when it comes to Minnesota, where Tim Walz is from, her vice president running mate, there is not a limit in terms. So even if Roe v. Wade returns, or there's something like it, there has always been laws in place of how women will govern their own body. It's just that it works in favor of the abortion instead of against it. All right. Hello, Andrea. Good to see you. Good to see you here. Let's see. Yeah. All right. Continue.
Freedom to love who you love openly and with pride. The freedom to just be is under attack in so many places. And
yeah, but the same thing be said, able to have children to be having sex changes in certain places and not have anything disclosed to parents. Is that an example of being too? And again, we'll talk about that more when we start getting into Agenda 2030. We're going to be doing that this week. I may very well do that tomorrow. But I just wanted to say that too. Let me get myself out of the way.
And the freedom to be safe from gun violence, right? And so there is so much about what's at stake in this election that really is about fighting for freedom, because the difference between me and my opponent, the former president, Donald Trump, couldn't be more different on so many of these issues. Mm-hmm. And so I'm so proud, and it always just gives me an extra pep, because Beyonce's Freedom is my walk-on song in all of these rallies. And
did you guys share a moment, you and
So let me just go here again. Yeah, I can't help it. I can't help it because this interview is already being very insulting. What does Beyonce's freedom have to do with the conversation at hand? Why is it that whenever we're trying to have something of a political nature, there has to be some form of entertainment that's involved in these discussions? There's always having to be something that is non-relevant to actual issues that Black people, let alone to the people that you're supposed to be talking about, Black men, supposed to be discussing. Why? Why is that?
Beyonce?
I mean,
what was that conversation like?
She and I have, I'll tell you, the last time that I saw her was a couple years ago at a BT event. And I mean, and her mother, though, I've been seeing a lot recently because Beyonce's been on tour. She's been doing her thing. Tina is so amazing.
Woman of the Year, Glamour.
Yeah. She's very special. She's very special. She's been supporting me for years. And and she actually, last time I talked to her, she was organizing hairstylists and women who have salons and, you know, who are incredible small business owners to get involved around getting out the vote.
Speaking of getting out the vote, you guys are on an HBCU tour.
Yes, we are.
That's amazing.
Yes,
Come on,
we
HU,
are.
you know.
You know. In fact, I was with a group of incredible, distinguished men last night in North Carolina, and we were all, you know, because and they were all, you know, there to support my candidacy and to talk about there are a lot of them are business owners. But then, you know, I'm not going to say we digress, but we definitely got into it about who went to which school.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you.
And had a healthy level of disrespect for each other.
Well, oh man, well, this next question might be, you know, a little controversial. So if you didn't go to Howard, is there another school?
I can't imagine a world like that.
Would you be a Spelman? Would you be a Spelman girl? Would you go to FAMU? You know, they're very prideful down there in Florida.
And they should be. And there is a reason that Howard is called the Mecca.
Ooh.
And I'm very proud to be a Bison. See, but we all have fun with each other. But you know what? We have fun with each other because here's the thing that we know, all of us, you mentioned all the schools, whether it be Spelman, FAMU, Morehouse, Shaw, all these schools. We have fun banter among us that is absolutely rooted in a collective pride that we share about our HBCU roots, because it is a very special experience, and it is something that gives us a kindred, I think, look on life about pride and about the pride in the success that we collectively achieve, a knowledge that we collectively stand on very broad shoulders of those historic leaders who graduated from each of these schools. And it is actually with that spirit and that sense of family that then we give each other a hard time about which school does what.
It's in good fun.
It's good. It's good fun. It's good fun.
Obviously, we're walking into a week where you know, you've been talking about really encouraging Black men specifically to get out and vote. And I do want to talk about the numbers. I crunched some numbers at 3 o'clock this morning. Okay. There was a poll on Saturday. It said that almost 80% of likely Black voters would vote for you if the election were held today. In 2020, though, it was 90% of Black voters overall. That was from the New York Times and Siena College. And then in 2016, you know, they also had a poll, the Pew Research Center. They said 81% of Black men voted for Hillary Clinton, 14% voted for Trump. In 2020, though, that number jumped 6%. So 87% of Black men voted for Biden. So 87% of Black men voted for Biden, 12% voted for Trump in 2020. So when you hear those numbers and you're seeing, you know, in the polls, and you're seeing Black men aren't as, quote, excited or fired up for you, how do you respond to that?
Well, that's not my experience.
Okay.
One, that's not my experience. Two,
so not my experience thing, because I know that a lot of people do that whenever it comes to objective reality. I remember when I was started getting into more of the Black YouTube sector, and there will always be the situation that would occur that would explain the reality of what's happening in the Black community, you know, the situation with femicide and certain things that would be going on that would expose a lot of degeneracy within the Black community. There was always this atmosphere of not my experience, and it would be done from the standpoint of not necessarily because, you know, from the standpoint of really sharing people their actual experience, but it will always be done in a dismissive way to not have to deal with the actual problem at hand. And that's what I'm seeing here, just by her saying that it's not my experience. Just because something is not your experience doesn't mean that it's not what's happening. Like for me, like the whole situation that was going on with Black men and Black women and stuff is not something that I personally experienced. But am I going to ignore the data? Am I going to ignore other people's experience, a collective experience that is happening within the community? Certain things, like I'm not somebody that indulges in rap or hip hop and stuff like that. For me, I grew up where there was the Black church. You know, for me, I grew up with the family and ministry and stuff. So there's a collective experience that I have that I'm able to share that other people may not be able to experience. But just because, you know, that's my experience, that doesn't give people the right to invalidate what I have seen as a Black man, someone who grew up with the family and ministry and stuff like that. So if I wouldn't want anybody to invalidate my experience, who am I to do that with somebody else because it's not something that I went through? That whole dismissive attitude is something that people keep coming across when it comes to Kamala addressing serious issues. So let's keep. So if we're seeing why she's not seeming relatable to anybody who has really serious matters at hand, this is the part of the reason why. Let's move on.
Election day has not arrived yet.
Okay.
And the third point that is probably the most important point is this. You know, when journalists ask me this question, I often will say to them that let's be clear that your underlying premise is not an assumption that I'm supposed to have Black men in my back pocket in terms of their vote, and that I should be taking that for granted, because I don't. Black men are no different from anybody else. They expect that you have to earn their vote. And that's why I'm out here doing the work that I'm doing about talking with folks, listening with folks, because I'm running for president of the United States. And it is incumbent on me to earn the support. And that is why I'm talking with folks about the work that I have done in my career, whether it be in particular as vice president, what I've done to put more billions of dollars actually into community banks to increase access to capital for small business owners. Even before I was running for president, I convened a bunch of Black small business owners, all who were men, and I purposely convened them I brought them into my ceremonial office at the White House to have a meeting about what their needs are and to make sure that they have the information about what's available to them in terms of financing, capital, and access to capital, support for what they want to do in terms of building or growing their business. So that's the kind of work I will continue to do. But here's the other thing that I think is equally important, is pointing out that there are two very different visions for our nation that are being presented to voters right now. On the one side, you've got Donald Trump, who...
And when all else fails, it goes back to, oh, we got to worry about Donald Trump. Oh, he's going to be giving money out to billionaire friends. Oh, he's going to infringe upon the middle class. Oh, he's going to be a dictator and all of this type of stuff. And again, her problem is that she cannot communicate to the actual issue at hand. The whole business thing, right? Everybody's not going to be able to do a small business. And even if you do have a small business, you still have employees. And that does not address the actual issues that are concerning not just Black men, but all Americans, which is the economy, the state of democracy, and the concerns that they are having with the Democratic Party. Again, going back to what I shared earlier, the concerns about the Democratic Party actually listening to the concerns of the people, especially with the situation of the migrant crisis. People have been talking a great deal about how they don't like the whole migrant issue. And the more that they're recognizing that they're being prioritized over the actual citizens and taxpayers, it is causing a huge rift. You add that with the situation that's going on with sending money to different countries to fund wars and all this different stuff. That's the main thing. If they would just really talk to that, they would be much better off. She don't really have to address anything specifically with Black men. Just address those particular things. Plain and simple. But she wants to talk about business. Again, completely out of touch. And again, it also goes again to her willingness to dismiss the actual problem at hand. But let's go ahead and listen to her diatribe about what Donald Trump's going to do and stuff. Let's just go ahead and listen, because you know she loves talking about that so much.
wants to take us backward. Donald Trump, who, let's not forget, when he was renting his apartments and his property, refused to rent to Black families. Donald Trump, who, as it relates to 5 young Black men, they were actually teenagers and Latinos, the Central Park 5, he took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for their execution. They were innocent.
And that right there was misinformation on his part. He's already admitted that he didn't know any better about that. I'm sure that a lot of people have thought that same thing. But to Kamala Harris's point, when it comes to the whole situation of locking up Black families, and in particular, not being able to be a strong advocate for people who have already been proven innocent, that is something that's actually up her lane with that whole top cop stuff. Like we already have an idea of who you are, because we've seen how you've been able to act as district attorney within your own state. We have a whole Black woman and her daughter, her sick daughter, who has been disabled due to a stroke that has been caused by you locking up her mother, that played a role in that. We know about the Black man who you had locked away and you did not want him to reclaim his innocence. You wanted him to stay in there. You actually fought hard to ensure that he stayed in that prison. They had to make you let him go. Let's move on. Look, she's on my nerves already. Let's keep going.
Donald Trump, who referred to the first Black president and suggested, remember the birtherism lies, that he couldn't have been born in the United States. Donald Trump, who in his Project 2025, you know, the various things that would happen would include
the Project 2025. Oh, Project 2025. We got to be so concerned about Project 2025. With so many things that are already problematic already with that's already in the hands of not only her and Biden, but also that's happening with Democrats already. A lot of people have already forgotten about Project 2025 by and large. Is it still a concern for a lot of people? Yeah, sure. But this whole migrant situation has been a great deal as to why she hasn't shown to be a solution that is going to be whatever concern that people have about this Project 2025. All right. And I tell you all, the Project 2025 is not really your concern. You need to be more concerned about what they're doing as far as whatever plans they are trying to unfold and why they're trying to elect this person who is clearly not that qualified, Kamala Harris, into office. That's what you need to be concerned about a lot more, because that is more tangible than whatever this Project 2025 is.
Allowing it or making it easier for companies to not give workers overtime pay. We cap the cost of prescription medication at $2,000 a year for seniors and cap the cost of insulin at $35 for our seniors. That's our grandparents.
Yeah, but that cap was already there with Trump already being in office, along with tax cuts. The tax cuts that she's been saying is only good for like the billionaires and stuff. You all, we're still under that today, and we're all benefiting. That's why she and Biden have not let go of the tax cuts. Tax cuts been in place since 2017. They're set to expire next year. We're all benefiting from these taxes. And to her point about the medicine, you all know that we had I had a conversation with the Eclectic Tarot about a couple of weeks ago, and we were talking about medicine and how they are not allowing, the establishment is not really allowing free market when it comes to, or they're not necessarily allowing it, but they're not really being they're not really showing necessarily the actual free market that's available, so that way they won't have to negotiate all these high prices. You can actually get other forms of that particular medicine, and it would be a whole lot less cheaper. But because they are pro-establishment and they're trying to make it seem as if they are the good guys by trying to negotiate the prices, she thinks that actually puts her in a very good position. And the reality is that it doesn't. Move on.
Our parents, Black folks are 60% more likely to be diagnosed with diabetes. His plan would eliminate that cap. So part of the reason that I am out here talking with folks, listening to folks, is to make sure that I am communicating and letting them know about the real contrast that is being presented. Because my bottom line is this: I know the power that people have to make a difference. And I respect that power. And I am out here doing the work of earning then the vote so that we can get to the job of continuing to move forward. And for me, that is about pushing for an opportunity economy, which is about tapping into the ambitions and the aspirations of folks and doing the work of investing in community, investing in industries, strengthening our economy, and giving people dignity in the process.
Now you have a
But a lot of them have been helping with certain policies and stuff. They've actually driven up inflation to include the Inflation Reduction Act, because a lot of that stuff went into clean energy, right? It did not actually deal with the inflation problem at hand. So the real question is that when it comes to this opportunity economy, what opportunity is she really trying to prepare us for if it's not actually dealing with the actual inflation at hand? The issue that we're having with the inflation has a lot to do with the supply chain, the overspending that is done with our dollars, and so much more. Like, what type of opportunity cost is she trying to introduce? And again, going back to the tax cuts, there's already cuts in place. So once those expire, what's gonna happen is that what I've seen is happening, the taxes are going to increase, but because she's willing to tax on the rich a lot more, along with these unrealized gains, she's going to make you think that, number one, they're really adding their fair share, while also making sure that you have a reduced cost, even though I don't believe that's going to be the thing that happens. That's what she's saying, or even if it does happen, we have to ensure what exactly is this opportunity cost or as opportunity economy supposed to mean, because as we have has shared, and we'll talk about that more too, about this opportunity economy, as we've heard from Chinese immigrants, or those who are Chinese Americans who have immigrated from China, they said it is an introduction to communism. And I'm going to take the word of those who come from communist countries about this economic system, as opposed to somebody who is trying to introduce it as this good idea. All right, let's move forward.
friend. His name is Barack Hussein Obama. You know him?
I do know him. I do.
He recently in Pittsburgh.
President.
Let's get it right.
Yes.
Yeah,
Obama.
President. President Barack Obama. He was campaigning for you in Pittsburgh before some students at the University of Pittsburgh, which is my alma mater. And he said some things that really ruffled some feathers in the news. He said, "It makes me think you aren't just feeling the idea of having a woman as a president. You're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for that. We have not seen the same kind of energy and turnout in all corners of our neighborhoods and community as we saw when I was running." So when you hear those words, I'm sure you were briefed on the situation. Former Ohio State Senator Nina Turner, she came out on CNN and said, "Why are you putting Black men up against the wall and pressuring them into something that possibly, they don't want to do if they want to vote for you or not?" So my question to you is, do you think that what President Obama said was the right thing to say?
Let me tell you, I am very proud to have the support of President Obama, and that he is out traveling to talk with voters about what is at stake in this election. I'm very proud to have his support. What is also important is, one, to understand, like, as I said, I intend to earn the vote of everyone, including Black men. Two, pay attention to everything that President Obama talked about, because he also talked about at length the danger of Donald Trump.
Here we go again. Y'all ready for another diatribe of Donald Trump and how dangerous he is, and how this plays a role as to why she needs to win and all that type of stuff. Y'all ready? Y'all ready? Here we go. Let's do this.
Danger of Donald Trump, in terms of somebody who has said that they would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies, somebody who has referred to Black immigrants in Springfield, Ohio, legal immigrants, as though they would eat their pets.
Which has never been fully debunked. And there are Haitian Americans who have come out and said that it is true that there are Haitians, that they know Haitians, they even have some in their family that will eat cats or dogs. I think there's some that will eat dogs, but they won't eat cats or something to that effect. But they will eat people's pets. This is not completely debunked. We're just taking the word of officials as opposed to citizens who have made commentary on platforms about what has happened with their pets. Okay, so that's what's already there. To add to that, you guys remember what I said before. See, when we talked about the whole humanitarian parole and the CHNV, which is Cubans, Haitians, Nicaraguans, and Venezuelans, you know that she's very quick to talk about the Haitian migrants, right? That are there, that she is saying that is there legally, even though they came in very quickly, and people are not even entirely sure how these people have managed to populate so quickly. But she's calling them legal. She's calling them legal immigrants. They may be, they may not be. We don't know how they managed to get there. We don't know if they've been planted there. There's a whole lot that is so perplexing about the situation that is at hand. But these Haitians are a part of the CHNV. And I'm telling you guys now, the way that it's already being used, if this continues on, we are going to see, and I'm saying it right now, I say it because I believe it. CHNV is going to be the migrant alphabet group. I'm saying it right now. You might as well take your time to prepare for that in case she wins, because that is exactly what's going to happen. We already know how focused they are on getting these migrants in, and they do have specific migrants that they are having as part of the humanitarian parole, and who are they allowing in here. Pay attention, all right? She's always putting in that work of talking about these Black migrants that are Haitian. All right, let's continue.
Constantly perpetuating tropes. Remember, Donald Trump, who said in Charlottesville, there are good people on each side. So I think it's really important to focus on the stakes of this election. And there are two choices.
But ma'am, that's not the same. And that's another thing too. That is not the same thing as earning a vote. Earning a vote is giving an exact definitive reason as to why you should be chosen over Donald Trump. You're saying that there's only two options. It's either you or Donald Trump. That's not earning a vote. That's basically saying that if you don't pick me, you're picking danger. That's not enough. And people are getting tired of constantly hearing how you're the number one choice to pick over Donald Trump. We're over it. Get something new already. We're tired of it. That's why you're not gaining momentum.
Two choices. And I ask everyone to look at the background, look at the work, look at the words, to have a sense of how you then choose to use the power of your vote on election day. But there is a very big difference between Donald Trump and how I will be president of the United States. And I cannot impress upon people enough that this is somebody, Donald Trump, who intends to take us backward. Look, this man won't even debate me a second time.
So another thing too, this whole going backward thing, and that he is not willing to debate and all this type of stuff. So let me go with the whole going backward thing. What exactly are we moving forward to? All right. Again, why I'm talking about Agenda 2030, and that's the very thing that I wanted to move you into. There's topic that I want to talk about that. The whole aspect of globalism, how it's redefining the idea of women's rights, how it's redefining the idea of immigration through migration. There's so many things that she is willing to do, because I did a video talking about how Democrats are very progressive when it comes to ideals from the UN and how this plays a role in globalism. We're going to be talking about that more, but this is something that she is letting you know right now that they're moving you forward into without actually saying it, because she wants you to believe that going backwards is somehow automatically bad because it's Donald Trump. All right. As far as the whole debate with 60 Minutes, I think there's already been discussions about that as to why he doesn't want to do it. I don't have everything, so I'm not going to share misinformation right here. But there's been a legitimate reason as to why he doesn't want to do that. So we're not going to go into that. Right? Let's continue on.
He won't even debate me a second time. He didn't do the 60 Minutes interview, which I believe every presidential candidate for president of the United States has done. He will not take up the important responsibility that every presidential candidate has done of showing their medical records. Okay?
Which you
I
just
think
did?
which I have done. Of course I've done it. I have done that. I have challenged him to another debate. I have given up my medical records. I did the 60 Minutes interview. And one has to ask, what is Donald Trump trying to hide? What is his staff and his team trying to keep from you? And it may be the fact that, like the people who work closest with him, his chief of staff in the White House, his national security advisor, his secretaries of defense. Recently, we got the report about General Mark Milley, who all in sum have basically said Donald Trump is unfit to be president of the United States and is a danger. And there are many who are believing that all of this points to an individual who is also quite unstable and unfit to be president of the United States. Those are the stakes at play in this election.
One more thing I want to ask you before you go, and I think it's the fun part. I want to
Okay.
ask you about your plan for Black men.
Yes.
It's something huge
Yes.
that you have just released this
Yes.
week. We're talking about 1 million loans that are fully forgivable up to $20,000
Right.
to Black entrepreneurs, men and women,
Yes.
correct? Expanding access to bank accounts, expanding the child tax credit, many things that you're
Housing.
doing.
Don't forget
Housing,
my housing.
lowering rent, making it affordable to buy a house for
Yes.
first time home buyers.
Correct.
That is not specifically for Black men, though. That is for everyone, which she has touted over and over again, and that's not necessarily for just Black men. I'm going to play that video again. Well, the video that's constantly going around, but that is not specifically for Black men. That's not saying that there is something to offer them or to secure their vote. Just wanted to share that. Let's keep going.
Talk to me about this plan, just in summary, and how this will impact not only Black men, but all Black people.
Sure. So look, I grew up in the middle class. My mother.
Y'all ready to hear the middle class story again? Let's go.
They worked hard. She saved up. And by the time I was a teenager, she was able to buy our first home. I will never forget where I came from. Okay, by the way, my opponent, Donald Trump, was handed $400 million basically on a silver platter and filed for bankruptcy 6 times. So just keep that in mind about who's coming from where. I know the ambitions, the aspirations, the incredible work ethic that exists in our community. I know the dreams that exist, but not everyone has started out on the same base in terms of being able to realize their goals and their dreams. So my plan is to build what I call an opportunity economy, which means giving people an opportunity to actually achieve those ambitions, those goals, and those dreams. So for example, housing is too expensive. The American dream is something that previous generations could kind of count on, but no more. So one part of the problem is that we have a supply issue in terms of housing supply. My plan includes working with developers to do and home builders to create incentives for them to build 3 million new homes by the end of my first term. The second part, which is equally important, if not more, is to give people first-time home buyers a $25,000 down payment assistance. Because what you and I know.
So I have a question about that. How much is it going to cost to make all of those homes? Now, again, we all know about the tax cuts that are already in place and that are set to expire next year. So she's planning to have all this done, these 3 million homes, in a time in which people are already stressed when it comes to being able to afford basic things just like groceries, right? How much is this project going to cost? Again, these are the things that are very important, because one of the things that is a concern for especially men is the economy. And as you're taking the time to build these homes, by the way, given what happened with the past hurricanes, a lot of these homes aren't really that sturdy. Like, we saw a home that was just completely up and going away, right? Because of how these houses are being built. How much these things are going to cost, and how much is it going to be to actually build a qualitative, sustainable home? Or is it going to be like what I see going around driving every single day, these little dreary gray boxes with windows and a door that they want to call a home? Something to think about. All right. Anyway.
Is a lot of folks want to be a homeowner, but they don't come from money. They don't come from some families that can necessarily give them.
And to add, since she's talking about these first home buyers, is she including the migrants? Because we already know that there's already things that are being done to have the migrants be secure homes and stuff like that, making a way for them to get citizenship, so that way they're able to have a house and a home. Is this going to include that? Right? So when she's talking about first home buyers, is she talking about citizens, or is she talking about citizens and migrants? Like, these are things that she is not properly asking, and nobody's really holding her accountable to actually ask this particular question. So all these homes that are being built, all these taxpayer dollars that are going towards migrants, you want to try to build these homes too. Who are you building these homes for?
Or pass on a home, or give them the equity out of their home to help them with the down payment. $25,000 down payment assistance just helps people get their foot in the door to then save up to cover a mortgage. $6,000 child tax credit. I'm expanding the child tax credit to $6,000 for young families.
But see, what she won't say, because everybody's talking about this whole tax credit thing, right? When I would take my time to really research the idea of the tax credit, it was Trump who managed to extend the tax credits, the children tax credit, once he got in the office. Before he got there, when Obama was there and he left, the child tax credit was at $1,000. Trump was the one who made the child tax credit to $2,000. Now all of a sudden we're starting to hear more about how the child tax credit is becoming a major thing, because it's an actual very good thing. Right? So is she going to give Donald Trump credit for at least the expansion of the tax credit? Because in the past, that was never something that the Democrats had ever thought about, because it wasn't something that Obama was thinking about either. No, it makes you wonder.
So that in the first year of their child's life, they have the resources they need to buy a crib, a car seat, clothes, knowing that all parents have a natural desire to parent their children well, but not all parents have the resources to be able to do that. Opportunity. Small businesses. Our second mother, who helped raise us, was a small business owner. I know who our small business owners are. For our communities, they are part of the cultural, economic, civic fabric of our communities. They hold the strength of hiring locally, mentoring, all that. So I'm going to change so that the tax deduction for a startup small business, change it from what it is, it's $5,000. Nobody can start a small business with $5,000 to $50,000. And included in that, knowing that a lot of startup businesses then have overhead around, for example, what they need to do to buy equipment. For those who are startup and don't have the connections historically, a $20,000 forgivable loan for them to be able, for example, to pay to set up a really good website so
Do you
that
fear
their
that
business
it might
could then
intersect with
thrive.
PPP loans, and how, some people.
So while you are struggling to make sure that you are having, for a lot of people who are in the middle class and perhaps in the working class and stuff, while everybody is taking their time to, make sure that they are okay to try to adjust to the rising cost of living, she's going to help you build a website for your small business, as if everybody is really having the interest of just becoming these business owners. No, people, even if you have a business, people still need work. People are still going to be having to work for these businesses. Like, what exactly are you aiming to do for those who are just wanting to be workers and employees? Why is everything so focused on small businesses? Why exactly is there such a big focus on making sure that that people are owners of a small business? What is your aim for that? Is there a purpose that you're having for that? Because she hasn't really explained that either, right? Like, the whole focus and the idea of needing to have like these small businesses and stuff, knowing that small businesses aren't the only thing that matter within an economy. Why is there a focus and a need to ensure that you are only empowering or mainly empowering entrepreneurs? That for me, that sounds odd, because again, that's not the only thing that makes a functional economy run. Why are you aiming to achieve this? And I also question that after all this time, nobody's ever really asked that question. Why is there such a hyper focus on ensuring that you are only paying attention to entrepreneurs? And keep in mind, this ain't just simply for Black people. She's doing this for everybody.
Were involved with that, the PPP loans and fraud and all of that?
Fraud, listen, I spent a career prosecuting people for fraud. So we will take care of the abuses, but that's not a reason to not give people an opportunity to thrive. I think there is a real misconception that people just, and only their highest aspiration is to have a job. That's not where I come from in terms of how I think of it. The baseline should be everybody has a job. What we should be doing is creating incentives for people to be able to build wealth and build intergenerational wealth.
Yeah, but again, not everybody is going to have a business. You're still going to have people who need a job within those businesses, Kamala. That's common sense. Either way, people are going to have to apply for a job, even if they're trying to get into those small businesses. Everybody, like, it's not sustainable for everybody to have a small business. Why is this so much of your focus point when it comes to an opportunity economy? I'm telling you, something about this ain't right. Something about this does not sound right to me.
But again, knowing that not everybody starts out on the same base, but when you give them a little bit to just compete, they will work around the clock, good ideas, innovative ideas. And when they have just that little bit extra, it gives them what they need to actually get in there, compete, and thrive. That's the $20,000. That's the theory behind the $20,000 forgivable loan for people at a certain threshold, to just give them the resources, like I said, to start up a website, to buy the equipment they need, depending on the kind of business that they're creating, so that that's not the barrier to what otherwise is going to be their incredible work ethic and hustle to actually make a success out of their smart idea that actually has relevance to the community.
So speaking of hustles, you guys, and this is about to end, but you guys, you all know that all these hustles and stuff that are being done now, they're already being taxed. Under this administration, there has been a tax for basically all hustles. Everyone pretty much is working like an employee with the hustle that they have right now. So why then are you trying to talk about hustles now with this small business thing? But again, what is your aim with this? And why is this a standpoint for the opportunity economy? Y'all, something about this, it doesn't sit well with me. It's not sustainable for everybody to have a small business. It sounds good. It sounds like it's a great thing in theory, but you need workers. Like, unless you want to have people to have their own businesses online and have a website and stuff like that, and you want them to do it all by themselves, which I think could be the introduction for AI. I think that's part of the reason why she's talking about this. But because from a societal perspective, you need workers. My guess is that this is probably the introduction to AI, which is already a concern for a lot of people because they want to have an opportunity to have a job and be able to take care of themselves through maintaining, a work lifestyle. Because overall, it just doesn't make any sense in my mind why you would want to have this be the focal point of an opportunity economy and empowering people, for that sustainability of wealth. And again, that's for the personal wealth. Is that sustainable overall for our national economy? It just doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense.
Wow. We are watching. Thank you so much, Vice President
You're
Kamala Harris, for
welcome.
joining
It's good
us.
to be with
It's
you.
so important
It's
that
good
you're
to be back
here
with you.
talking with us, Black media. It's so important.
Of course,
Thank you.
always.
You're over here talking about Black media with something that you have already stated that is not specifically for Black people. Let's do this, because apparently it's like people are already forgetting something. This.
Let's really hear about people. No.
No. All right, so let me find another one. Find a longer one. Because this right here is talking about reparations, something that is for like, it's talking about reparations that is something specifically from the standpoint of Black people, that it actually would affect Black men.
For Black people.
So let's go into this one.
Well, listen, again, we had over 200 years of slavery. We had Jim Crow for almost a century. We had legalized discrimination, segregation, and now we have segregation and discrimination that is not legal but still exists and is a barrier to progress. We have disparities around housing. We have disparities around education, income. And we have to recognize that everybody did not start out on an equal footing in this country. And in particular, Black people have not. And so we have got to recognize that and do something about that and give folks a lift up. That's why, for example, I'm proposing the LIFT Act. Give people who are making $100,000 or less as a family a tax credit, which will benefit up 60% of Black families who are in poverty.
So by default, it affects Black families, but there's not a particular policy for African Americans that you would explore.
But no, if you look at the reality of who will benefit from certain policies, when you take into account that they're not starting at the same place and they're not starting on equal footing, it will directly benefit Black children, Black families, Black homeowners, because the disparities are so significant. So if we focus on the specific issues that have resulted in the greatest disparities, and we understand that that's part of why we're doing it. Listen, the reality also is this: any policy that will benefit Black people will benefit all of society. Let's be clear about that. Let's really be clear about that. So I'm not going to sit here and say I'm going to do something that's only going to benefit Black people. No, because whatever benefits that Black family will benefit that community and society as a whole and the country. Right?
And so that is what you're basically going to get with Kamala Harris. Let me get myself back here. That is exactly what you're going to be getting with Kamala Harris. Whatever is beneficial for Black people is something that's going to be beneficial for everybody. And that whole plan that she is trying to offer as something that is good for Black men or Black people as a whole, that is something that she is going to be doing to everybody, which already has some concerns from my end as to why I don't think this is something that is a very good idea. I'm going to go to one more thing. Because I think for some reason this is not getting enough recognition as it should, and I don't understand why she is able to get so much support from Black people after this right here. One more thing.
Hearing determine who will be the next head of ICE. And this is about reviewing the perspective, the qualifications, and the experience of the nominee. So that being said, I think, Mr. Vitello, that you would agree. Have I pronounced your name correctly?
Vitello.
Vitello.
Thank you.
I think you would agree as a member of law enforcement that law enforcement, generally speaking, and certainly it would be the case with ICE officers and agents, that a great deal of your power is discretionary. You have limited resources and you make decisions about what you're going to do. But you exercise a great deal of discretion in terms of how you're going to use the limited resources and how you're going to prioritize them. And then understanding that, I think you would also agree that one's perspective and their bias, if they have bias, will influence their exercise of discretion in terms of the power they have and how it will be used and implemented. So I want to return to the question that Senator Peters asked you about the statement you made describing the Democratic Party as liberal-cratic or neo-Klanist, which was, I think the assumption there was that you were comparing it to the Ku Klux Klan, the KKK. So you said in response to his question, you're sorry because the words caused offense. So would you not be sorry if no one was offended by your words?
No, it was wrong to do.
Why was it wrong?
Because those are offensive words.
Why are they offensive?
Because they have history in this country, and I honestly did not mean it that way.
But please talk about the history. What is the history that would then make those words wrong?
Well, the Klan was what we would call today a domestic terrorist group.
Why? Why would we call them domestic terrorist group?
Because they tried to use fear and force to change political environment.
And what was the motivation for the use of fear and
It
force?
was based on race and ethnicity.
Right. Are you aware of the perception of many about how the power and the discretion at ICE is being used to enforce the laws? And do you see any parallels?
I do not see any parallels between
I'm talking about perception.
officers and agents.
I'm talking about perception.
I do not see a parallel between what is constitutionally mandated as it relates to enforcing the law.
Are you aware that there's a perception?
I see no.
Are you aware that there's a
that
perception?
puts ICE in the same category as the KKK. Is that what you're asking me?
No, I'm very specific about what I'm asking you. Are you aware of a perception that the way that the discretion
I see no parallel.
I'm not finished.
I see none.
I'm not finished. I'm not finished. Are you aware that there's a perception that ICE is administering its power in a way that is causing fear and intimidation, particularly among immigrants and specifically among immigrants coming from Mexico and Central America? Are you aware of that perception?
I do not see a parallel between the power and the authority that ICE has to do its job and the agents and officers who do it professionally and excellently with lots of compassion.
Sir, how can you be the head of an agency and be unaware of how your agency is perceived by certain communities?
There's a lot of perceptions in the media and in the public that are incorrect about the agency.
But the perception exists, would you agree? Whether or not it's correct. And wouldn't you agree then that if that perception exists, there might need to be some work done to correct the perception?
I do want to advocate for the workforce, the vital public safety mission that they have to protect the homeland. And I think more people need to know how valuable they are to the society. So I agree with you on that.
So everybody, that is pretty much it. That is everything that I wanted to share. I wanted to end on that note. Get myself back up here. I wanted to end on that note because I want you all to understand something very, very clear. Whatever you guys are assuming that you're, it's particularly in this whole Black men discussion, whenever you guys are assuming that this woman is making it perfectly clear that whatever she has for you, she's going to be having it for everybody. If you're somebody who does not have a problem with that, that's fine. But also recognize that she does what every Democrat does, and that is when it comes to direct questions, when it comes to direct things that hold her accountable, or the things that she is supposed to and is meant to do. She, like other Democrats, to include Brandon Johnson, Tiffany Henyard, all the people that I have mentioned, and there's probably more in that regard. They're not going to do what they need to do specifically in regard to you. Their priority is going to be from the standpoint of the migrants and ensuring that whatever there is they do for you is going to be the same thing that they give for everybody. And what they're offering, is particularly for Kamala Harris, what she's offering is not something that makes her stand out against President Trump, which is why people are not supporting her. And it's not just simply Black people; it is everybody. It is. I think the main people who are in support of her right now, the main support that she's having right now, I think, is among white women, and then there's some white men that are there, which is usually the case that happens when it comes to voting. But she really doesn't have that strong of a support because of what she is standing for with this opportunity cost, and the fact that whenever you try to make her stand up for something, she always ducks and dodges. And then with that last point, when showing the KKK, she made a comparison of a government agency that is set to to apprehend people who come across our border illegally. She has compared these people to the KKK, which was a domestic terrorist group that terrorized the lives of Black people. They caused great harm for many, many years, over a century. And even now to this day, we still have people who may be carrying sentiments of the KKK, even when it comes to the Democratic Party. It never went away. And what you are seeing now from the backlash of everything that has happened with Black men showing that they're not supporting Kamala Harris, you are seeing more and more of why people are not wanting to vote for this Democratic Party. There's no accountability for anything. The fact that video is not being circulated more around the internet streets, the YouTube streets, TikTok streets, the fact that people are not even taking heed to that is more of a concern as to why she is somebody that we cannot trust to be a commander-in-chief or the head of any position. Because again, there's the lack of accountability. And on that note, I am going to end it there. Thank you all for tuning in. I hope that you were able to gain something from this particular video. We are going to meet again tomorrow. We're going to be talking about Agenda 2030. I know I talk about this a lot. We're going to talk about Agenda 2030, and we're going to focus on specifically women's rights. We're going to talk about transgenderism and the whole topic of abortion and how this play a role in the perception of womanhood, how it affects women's rights in the United States of today, and the whole agenda that's involved in that. That's what we're going to be talking about tomorrow. So make sure that you are able to join me at that particular day. All right. So I'll catch you guys next time. Remember, if you like this video, hit the like, give me a thumbs up. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button, click notification bell so that way you are alerted every time there is a new video. Thank you all for tuning in, and I wish you all a fantastic rest of your day. Later.